The felon and the felon's family's crypto scam lands them in hot water. And Jasmine Crockett's running for the Senate in Texas. Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, promoting the videos on your social media platforms, and watching the videos all the way to the end. Hitting that thumbs up button, leaving a comment of more than 7 words, and watching them all the way to the end really does promote the channel in the YouTube algorithm. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so Jasmine Crockett announces she's running for Texas Senate because her House seat is basically no more. They've gerrymandered her out due to the Supreme Court decision. I believe James Tallarico is also going to run. Colin Allred announced he was dropping out. So I want to look at Jasmine Crockett versus James Tallarico, and then I want to look at the Democrat versus Ken Paxton and the Democrat versus John Cornyn. So that's quite a bit to get to there. Also, Trump crimes, the Trump family crimes, the felons' crimes with respect to these crypto schemes. I think there's more to it than that. I want to look to see if they've actually committed some crimes and will states go after them. And, you know, what about the second bombing on this boat? Will there be war crime charges? Well, let's look at it. This has gone a lot further than I thought it would, with Congress set to vote on withholding Pentagon funding until they release the second video. So we'll look at that. And then, should we expect some political violence? Marjorie Taylor Greene, in her interview, basically stated that, you know, the felon encourages political violence. This is nothing new. If you've ever been paying attention, you would know that that's the case, and that yeah, I don't know how anybody could support him, but that's the way it went down. So, okay, so let's start. Let's see, where do we want to start? Oh, and I also want to look at the Indiana redistricting map as well. So I think let's start with let's start with, should we expect political violence? So we'll move to the maps, and then the Senate race, and then we'll move to war crimes, and then the possible crimes from the felon and his family. So should we expect political violence? There is an air to the desperation of MAGA that concerns me. There's just a feeling like maybe something bad's going to happen. I'm not saying it is, and just there's kind of a feeling that the potential's there as it becomes more and more apparent that Republicans are going to lose. You know, the Hermit card's not a good card to pull here. It's, you know, somebody being isolated, really thinking things through, planning things. This is definitely a concern. Yeah, the Tower card. Trying to tear down structures, the planning of the tearing down of structures. This sounds an awful lot like political violence to me. And we get the King of Swords. They're very methodical about what their approach is here. It'll be hard to pull off. It'll most likely get stopped before it happens. The Ace of Wands. The reason why is the fear of new leadership. So this definitely be on the MAGA side of things. And the Eight of Wands. The FBI, the other intelligence agencies really need to be on top of this because it could be planned very quickly. The people or that feel this way feel like there's no other choice. The Eight of Swords. And it's so easy to get guns and various other things in this country that it wouldn't be that hard to come out. And then making choices, the Lover's card. I really don't like these cards. It does feel like somebody's planning something because they're scared of new leadership, and therefore they're going to make choices with the Hermit, the Ace of Wands, and the Lover's card. I think they feel backed into a corner because they really don't want Democrats to take over, and this person feels like they have a lot of skills. The idea is to tear down the structures. It's hard to pull off, though. I mean, that's true in general. But, you know, it's not hard to get access to guns and stuff. And I think as we get closer to the realization that Republicans are going to lose, you know, especially after all the redistricting happens, if Indiana does their thing, we'll look at that. If Florida does their thing, Wisconsin does their thing, Virginia does their thing, Utah's already been mapped to help the Democrats, California's already done their thing, there's Maryland and Illinois and still up in the air in a lawsuit in New York. Republicans are going to lose the gerrymandering thing, which is kind of hilarious. So this will be somebody who'll leave a manifesto and get lost there. It's a bit concerning. We'll keep an eye on this. You know, the threat of political violence is always there in this country. And there's a long history of it as well. Okay, let's jump to this Indiana map. So it did pass the House, the State House in Indiana, and it's being heard in front of the Senate. I think the vote's expected on Thursday. The president of the Senate, who originally said there wasn't enough votes, basically said we'll have to wait till Thursday. So that makes me feel like it's going to pass. But I'm not sure Democrats shouldn't want it to pass. It is a terrible map for Republicans. It really would not be unthinkable in a year that the economy's terrible, that people's perception of corruption being really high, and wanting to kick the party in power out of power. It would not be thinkable under this new map to think that Democrats could get 6 out of the 9 seats. Possibly even all 9. I know that sounds crazy, but look at the map. The safest Republican districts, like R plus 18. Tennessee was R plus 22, and she came within 9 points. So add 4 points, so that make it the Republican winning by 5 in the same sort of environment that only requires 2.5% of people to change their minds, or some people not to show up to vote. So I don't know. If I were Republicans, I would not think this is a good deal here. What do we need to know about the Indiana map? I actually think there might be still some undecided people, undecided senators, that is, on the Republican side. Now, Republicans hold a huge majority. We need, I think, 16 of them to vote against it for it to fail out of the 50, if I remember correctly. I think there is this realization that this map might be really bad. I also think there's some Republicans that don't care, in the sense of they're tired of the death threats, they're tired of the swatting incidents. They're just going to go along with it, knowing that they're very well handling the Democrats' 3 or 4 seats. It doesn't do what Republicans think it does. Indiana is not Republican enough to draw all districts Republican. It's just not. I mean, you know, most states aren't. Tennessee, Oklahoma, yes, they are. But most states are not. Judgment, there'll be repercussions if they do it. I think there's still some people making up their mind. I think the situation is quite fluid with the Lover's card and then the Moon card at the center. There's a lot of energy here. There's a lot of last-minute pushes, a lot of protests. The Magician, that's 5 major arcanas in a row. I don't think that it's completely set in stone. I think if you're in Indiana and you're protesting in front of the Senate, the Capitol, you should keep that up. I think it might not pass. Now, just because I say Democrats could win all 9 seats or 7 seats or 6 seats or whatever, doesn't mean they will. If the old map is kept, the Democrats will for sure win 2 seats that they already have. The King of Wands. Expect some pretty passionate speeches here. Surprising new beginnings. This makes me think it passes. Sleepless nights. I don't think the congressional Republicans in Indiana want it passed. So remember, the state legislature votes on the maps. The federal Congress people are the ones that run under the maps. So I think there's some last minute jockeying. There's some volatility here. A lot of people are worried about what the map actually does. Does it just hand Democrats a bunch of seats? Given how unpopular the felon is, and more importantly, how unpopular the Republican Party is. Expect some really good arguments against it. And judgment if it passes. I think we'll fully understand what they're doing, the choices that they made, how they essentially, I was going to use the word bribe for entertainment purposes only. I don't think it's actually like a monetary bribe, but what they did to get others on board and surprising anybody. I'd be surprised if it doesn't pass. If it doesn't pass, though, I wouldn't be super shocked. It's a bad map for Republicans. It's basically taking 7 guaranteed seats and throwing 9 of them up in the air. Going from 7 safe Republican seats to 9 kind of swingy seats. Yes, a couple of them are probably going to go to the Republicans, but a Republican plus 10 district going to the Democrats, not unheard of. Kendra Horn in Oklahoma in 2018 won in a Republican plus like 26 or 27 district. So it's not as safe as they think, but the felon's too stupid to realize that. I think we're just going to have to wait. I don't know that we'll get any indication of what's going to happen until it happens. I think some people are staying quiet. I do think the Democrats come out ahead here. And it's full steam ahead. The Democrats will recruit 9 strong candidates. So, yeah, this is not, I think, going to go the way that Republicans think. Okay, Jasmine Crockett. It seems like her main primary opponent would be James Tallarico. There's others, of course. Colin Allred dropped out of the race. I always, this is nothing against Colin Allred at all. I think he's a great guy. I always thought he would lose if he were the nominee. You just kind of don't get 2 shots at it. You run and you lose, you run and you lose again. It's the same with Beto O'Rourke, right? He lost the Senate seat. It was real close to Ted Cruz. And then he tried to run for governor and he lost by a lot. So I just don't think I think that's good. So let's see. Let's do Crockett on the left and Tallarico on the right. Who's going to win this primary? I'm not sure Tallarico has formally announced, although I think it's very much expected that he will. Okay, so Crockett on the left, Tallarico on the right. Who's going to win this race? there's a lot of anxiety around Jasmine Crockett. I've been picking up on this all day yesterday, I should say, when she announced. I'm recording this early in the morning on Tuesday. I think a lot of people think she can't win. We get the world card over here for Tallarico. He could put an end to this cycle of Republican senators. We get the Page of Wands for Crockett, Yet she's great at throwing bombs. She's fantastic. She's fun to watch. Absolutely. I think she'd make a great senator. I just think the primary voters are going to wonder whether she can win. We get the Four of Cups from James Tallarico. That's not a good card either. We get Death. I actually like that for Crockett, similar to the World card, ending the cycle. We get the card for the voters over here for Tallarico. Let's do two more. Crockett's very consistent, the King of Swords. Tallarico's got the Star card. We get the Ace of Cups. And we get the High Priestess. So new beginnings and then things going on behind the scenes. Just looking at this on the face, it looks like Tallarico would win. My gut says that he wins. I just think there's going to be a lot of energy behind Crockett, though. So I'm going to go with. We'll check in again when we get closer to the primary, and we know all the candidates involved. But I think Tallarico wins. He's young. He's well spoken. He is quite. Aligned with a more conservative viewpoint. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm not saying who I would vote for, so don't misinterpret that. I just think people are going to be... It just feels like there's some skepticism about whether Jasmine Crockett could win against Ken Paxton or John Cornyn. So let's just see. Could Crockett win against Cornyn? It's yes or no? No. She would lose to John Cornyn. That doesn't surprise me. I think Tallarico would lose to John Cornyn too. So would Tallarico beat John Cornyn? Would Tallarico beat John Cornyn? It'll be closer, but no. The double card, the two he would lose to Cornyn too. But the most likely nominee is actually Ken Paxton. John Cornyn's the sitting senator. Ken Paxton's the lieutenant governor. Attorney general, I'm sorry. And he's been indicted, impeached. But we know how Republicans like people that have been impeached, so... All right, could Crockett beat Ken Paxton? This is where things get interesting. Could Crockett beat Ken Paxton? No, we got the same card, the Five of Pentacles. Okay, could Tallarico... Don't get me wrong, it's a heavy lift for either one of them, right? Neither one of them would be expected to win, so... Texas is notorious for not swinging in the same level as the rest of the country when the country swings way left. Could Tallarico beat Ken Paxton? Yes, I think he could. So, obviously it's a tarot reading. I could be right, I could be wrong. These are just my impressions, but I do think Tallarico would have a good shot against Ken Paxton, like a 50-50 shot or maybe just slightly better. I love Jasmine Crockett, but I just don't think she can win statewide in the state of Texas. I just don't see it. I could be wrong. Okay. So what about war crime charges for Hegseth or anyone else? Will there be any sort of war crime? First of all, are we going to get the second tape? So the felon said he was going to release it, and then a reporter asked today, and he said he didn't say that. Either he's lying or he's confused or both. Probably just confused. Will we get to see this tape? Just 3 cards here. The 4 of Pentacles, the 7 of Cups, the 8 of Wands. That was not very clarifying. I'm going to grab the Thoth deck. So we had stability, illusion, and delusion, and then things moving quickly. Kind of feels like they keep it hidden. They're going to want to keep it hidden. Will we get to see the tape? We get the 8 of Cups walking away. And we get the 8 of Swords, the truth. And we get the Fool, new beginnings. I think the answer is yes, but not right away. And I don't know that you and I get to see the tape. But I think some of the Intelligence Committee people in the Senate get to see the tape eventually. All right, will there be war crime charges in relationship to this? These could be brought by the U.S. military. This could be brought by the International Criminal Court. Generally, when the U.S. charges somebody with war crimes, it's brought by the U.S. military against their own people. The problem is whether you have a prosecutor that is actually going to investigate it, that doesn't get fired before the work is done. And then the question is, who do you prosecute? The admiral in charge, the people in the plane? The people that launched the missiles? Who's the guilty party here? Hegseth? Will there be war crimes? Let's see here. Expect some swift movement here. We get the 5 of Swords here, being wounded in battle. That's really what we're describing. We do get the truth. I think the truth, I do think we get the full truth. I just don't know that that means that there's charges yet. We need to keep going, but I do think we get the full truth. You know, the truth is we know the full truth. They bombed a boat. People were clinging for life on the boat, and they bombed it again. That's what happened. Up to you to determine whether that's a crime, but I think under most circumstances, that's a crime. The King of Wands. This is going to get trickier and trickier for the administration to deal with. There's going to be an investigation. I wasn't too hopeful at the beginning. I just thought bringing notice to this would be good enough, like in the sense of that's basically all we could hope for. I feel like there might be a big investigation into this. Yeah, we're going to have to wait for it, though. If the Democrats take the House in 2020, expect there to be a really big investigation. Yep, we got the boat, the 2 of Pentacles here, and the abuse of power by the Emperor. The Emperor, I think, is Hegseth. So, you know, we're going to keep talking about it. It's not going to go out of the news. There are a lot of scared people with the Hermit card because they know they did wrong. We're going to have to wait for new leadership, but once we do, we get the truth. And the truth is that the people that they shot down were wounded in battle already. They had no means of retaliation. In fact, they had no means of retaliation. I think there'll be some elegant arguments about this. I do think there's a lot of considerations here, but I think it's inevitable. I don't think Democrats will push until after the election. I don't think they want this to be an election issue. It's an uphill climb, but the end result would be good with the full card. So yeah, tricky politics here. Not everything's politics, right? But in an election year in the United States, everything's politics. It's regardless of whether the issue's clear cut. There's politics involved, so this is the way it is. All right, so people have lost tons of money on the Trump crypto scam, the Melania coin, the Trump coin. So will the felon or any of his family face consequences? It does feel like this was like a coordinated effort to make certain people rich while other people lost money. Will there be any charges here? Will there be any charges? We need to know. I think this is one of the things that they just don't really think about, that it crosses international borders. And so you never know who might bring charges. The 8 of Wands, followed by the 5 of Swords again. And partnership. So quick movement, being wounded in battle, people partnering up. People lost money, the 5 of Cups. And I think for some people it wasn't just a little bit. I think it was a lot of money. Not everybody. Crypto's a weird game. I know what it is on paper, but I still don't really understand it. And I know that seems like a contradictory statement, but crypto's really hard to understand, like why it has any value. The 10 of Pentacles, going after his inheritance, his estate. People left out in the cold. That's 3 5s in the environment around, which are about change. The Magician, everything's on the table. I think people are looking into this. New leadership, the Ace of Wands, and walking away. It's possible here. I have some hope that people are looking into this. I feel like they're going to go after his estate after he's gone. I think everything's on the table. They'll go after his estate, and I think people are already working on it. They might not be in the U.S., though. I do think this will leave the family wounded with loss of money, loss of property, loss of prestige, and will result with some new rules in the United States about how this is done. Yeah, there'd be elegant reasons why the speeches will be good. We will get justice. I do think so. I do think that there are charges coming. Probably not till after the felon's gone or isn't president anymore, whichever way you want to phrase it. But I do think that's what happens. All right, thank you for watching. I will be back with another video soon.